The first light of dawn painted the eastern sky with hues of rose and gold. A thick blanket of mist clung to the cold North Sea, shrouding the approaching danger. From the swirling gray, ghostly shapes emerged. Longships, sleek and deadly, their dragon-headed prows cutting through the water with an almost unnatural grace. These were not vessels of trade or exploration. They were instruments of war, carrying within their depths the wolves of the north. The rhythmic thump of oars striking the water was the only sound that dared challenge the silence. The longships glided effortlessly through the mist, their dark hulls barely discernible from the swirling gray. At the prow of the lead ship, Jarl Ragnar, a giant of a man with eyes as cold and unforgiving as the northern ice, surveyed the approaching coastline. He raised a hand, the signal for his men to cease rowing. The silence that descended was absolute, broken only by the gentle lapping of water against the hull of the longships. The village lay ahead, a cluster of wooden houses nestled against the backdrop of a dense forest. Smoke curled lazily from a few chimneys, a testament to the peaceful slumber of its inhabitants.
The villagers sleep, Jarl.
Ragnar nodded, a grim smile playing on his lips. With a barely perceptible nod from Ragnar, the longships surged forward, their silence shattered by the synchronized roar of Viking voices. They were upon the village before the first screams of alarm could be raised. The element of surprise was their greatest weapon, and they wielded it with brutal efficiency. The Vikings swarmed ashore like wolves descending upon a flock of sheep, their axes and swords thirsting for blood. Eric the Red, his wild red beard flying in the wind, led the charge, his laughter echoing through the village as he hewed down anyone foolish enough to stand in his path. Beside him, Helga the Shield Maiden, her face a mask of cold fury, cut a swathe through the terrified villagers. The Vikings fanned out through the village, their initial assault swift and brutal. The village, once a haven of peace and tranquility, was now an inferno of violence. Flames licked the sky, casting an eerie glow over the chaos below. The air was thick with the stench of burning wood and the metallic tang of fresh blood. Smoke billowed, obscuring the sun and turning day into a nightmarish twilight. The screams of the dying mingled with the triumphant roars of the Vikings, creating a symphony of chaos that echoed across the once peaceful countryside. The cacophony was a testament to the brutality of the invaders. A group of villagers, desperate and outmatched, attempted to make a stand, their makeshift weapons no match for the Vikings' superior arms and battle-hardened skills. Their faces were etched with fear and determination. They were cut down like wheat before the scythe, their sacrifice a futile attempt to stem the tide of violence that had engulfed their homes. Each fallen villager added to the growing tally of the dead. Among the raiders, Bjorn Ironside was a force of nature, his massive axe cleaving through flesh and bone with sickening ease. His presence on the battlefield was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The Vikings were relentless, their attack as well coordinated as it was savage. They moved with a deadly precision, each warrior knowing their role in the carnage. They gave no quarter and expected none. Mercy was a foreign concept in this brutal clash of civilizations. The cobblestone streets ran slick with blood, reflecting the flames that danced across the sky. The Vikings, their faces streaked with blood and sweat, pressed their advantage, their ferocity unwavering. Each fallen villager seemed to only invigorate their assault, fueling the fire that raged in their hearts.
She fought with the cold fury of a betrayed goddess, her every strike precise and lethal. She was a whirlwind of steel and fury, her blonde hair now matted with blood, whipping around her face as she fought her way towards the heart of the village.
One villager, larger than the others and fueled by desperation, charged at Helga, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and rage. He swung his crude club with all his might, aiming for her head. Helga met his charge with a cold smile.
You fight well, Shield Maiden.
A deep voice boomed behind Helga. She whirled around, her sword raised to face the speaker. It was Bjorn, his axe dripping with blood, his eyes burning with a predatory gleam. He towered over her, his massive frame casting an imposing shadow in the flickering light of the burning village. Helga met his gaze without fear.
As do you, Bjorn Ironside, but these villagers are little more than lambs to the slaughter. There is no glory in this.
Bjorn chuckled, a deep rumbling sound that spoke of his amusement at her words.
Glory is for skalds to sing about, woman. We are here for blood and gold, and the gods will be pleased with our offering.
Ealdric, the village elder, fought with the strength of 10 men. Despair fueled his every move, the sight of his burning home and slaughtered neighbors lending a terrifying edge to his attacks. He roared his defiance, his voice hoarse but unwavering as he parried and thrust, his sword a beacon of defiance against the encroaching darkness. Around him, his remaining men fought with the courage of desperation, knowing that defeat was inevitable, but determined to take as many of the Northmen with them as they could.
Get to the hall. Protect the women and children.
Ealdric saw Bjorn and Helga approaching, their progress marked by the fallen bodies of his people. He recognized the glint of cold amusement in Bjorn's eyes, the predatory hunger that marked him as a true son of the North.
Go! It's an order! I'll hold them off!
Ealdric roared, his voice cracking with the effort. His men, their faces etched with despair and respect, finally broke and made a desperate dash for the relative safety of the village hall. Ealdric turned back to face the approaching Vikings, his sword held firmly in his grip. He would meet his end as a warrior should, facing his enemies head-on.
You have courage, old man. Let us see if you have the skill to match.
Bjorn, sensing a worthy opponent, grinned, a feral expression that sent a chill down Ealdric's spine. The battle, fierce and bloody as it had been, was ultimately one-sided. The villagers, outmatched and outmaneuvered, had fought bravely but were no match for the Vikings' ferocity and battle-hardened skills. The village, once a beacon of peace and prosperity, now lay in ruins, its streets littered with the bodies of the dead. Smoke rose from the smoldering ruins of houses, a testament to the Vikings' ruthlessness.
The raid had been a success.
Ragnar, his face impassive beneath his thick beard, surveyed the scene with cold satisfaction. They had achieved their objectives, plunder and terror with their usual efficiency. His men, their faces flushed with victory and exertion, were already herding the surviving villagers into the center of the village square. The once vibrant tapestry of life that had adorned the village was gone, replaced by a tapestry of death and destruction. The streets, once filled with laughter and the sounds of daily life, now lay silent and desolate. The air, heavy with the stench of blood and smoke, carried the mournful cries of the villagers as they surveyed the smoldering ruins of their homes. Each wail and sob echoed the collective grief of a community torn apart. The Vikings had taken everything, their possessions, their livelihoods, and for many, their loved ones. The invaders showed no mercy, leaving behind only sorrow and despair. The weight of their loss hung heavy in the air, a tangible presence that suffocated any hope for the future. Faces etched with grief and eyes hollow with despair told the story of a people broken by tragedy. The sun, now high in the sky, cast long, distorted shadows across the ravaged landscape. These shadows seemed to stretch endlessly, mirroring the boundless sorrow of the villagers. The once picturesque village, nestled amidst rolling hills and verdant forests, was now a scar upon the land, a grim reminder of the Vikings' brutal efficiency. The contrast between the untouched beauty of nature and the destroyed village was stark and haunting. The silence, broken only by the crackling of flames and the sobs of the bereaved, was a stark contrast to the cacophony of battle that had raged just hours earlier. The echoes of war had faded, leaving behind a haunting stillness. It was the silence of utter devastation, of lives shattered and dreams extinguished. The village, once a place of hope and community, now lay in ruins, a testament to the fragility of peace in the face of relentless violence. As the last of the Longships pushed away from the shore, the mournful cries of the captive villagers echoing across the water, Ragnar stood at the prow of his ship, his gaze fixed on the receding coastline. The village, now a smoldering ruin, was a testament to his power, a grim reminder to any who dared to underestimate the reach of the Northmen.
We have done well, brothers. The gods smile upon us this day.
He felt no remorse for the lives he had taken, the homes he had destroyed. It was the way of his people, the cycle of life and death that had spun for generations. The villagers had been weak, their defenses feeble, their spirits soft from years of peace and prosperity. The sun began its final descent, painting the western sky in hues of blood orange and fiery red, a fitting backdrop to the Vikings' victory. The sky seemed to bleed, mirroring the day's brutal events, as if the heavens themselves were mourning the fallen. The wind, as if sensing the coming night, picked up, whipping the sails of the Longships, urging them back towards the vast expanse of the North Sea. The gusts carried with them the scent of salt and smoke, a reminder of the destruction left behind. The cries of the captive villagers, now little more than a mournful drone, were swallowed by the wind, a chilling reminder of the price of defeat. Their faces, etched with despair, told stories of lost homes and shattered lives, their future uncertain and bleak. The raid was over, but the memory of it, the flames, the screams, the scent of blood and burning wood, would linger long in the minds of both the victors and the vanquished. The charred remains of the village stood as silent witnesses to the carnage, a stark testament to the Vikings' ferocity. For the villagers, it was a day of unimaginable loss, a day that would forever be etched in the annals of their history as a day of fire and blood. Their tears mingled with the ashes, each sob a poignant echo of their grief and sorrow. For the Vikings, it was another triumph, another chapter in their saga of conquest and plunder. They reveled in their victory, their spirits high, their laughter ringing out over the waves as they celebrated their hard-won spoils. As darkness finally enveloped the fleet, Ragnar, his face illuminated by the flickering light of a nearby torch, allowed himself a rare smile. The glow of the torchlight danced in his eyes, reflecting the fire of his ambition and the satisfaction of a successful raid. They would return to their homeland, laden with the spoils of victory, their names whispered with a mixture of fear and respect. The tales of their exploits would spread far and wide, cementing their legacy as fierce warriors and masterful seafarers.